The Young and the Restless spoilers shock Thursday's full episodes March 10, 2025. The atmosphere in Genoa City was thick with unresolved tension and uncertainty. In one quiet corner of town, Summer and Chance found themselves locked in a heated conversation about the state of their relationship. Summer's eyes glistened with conflicted emotion as she admitted, softly, "I need time to process everything." Her voice trembled with the weight of unspoken memories and lingering hurt. Chance's tone, however, was firm and resolute. "It's been long enough," he insisted. His voice carried both the pain of past disappointments and the hope for a new beginning, a beginning that he believed they deserved. For a moment, the silence between them spoke volumes. Finally, Summer replied, "We can talk about this when we're both ready." There was a pause as if every word had to be carefully weighed. Then Chance, with a bittersweet smile, added, "Actually, I'm ready now, Summer." His eyes, filled with regret, softened further as he continued, "I'm sorry, but this is something you'll have to work through on your own." His apology was more a lament than a contrition, a recognition that sometimes, healing could only come from facing one's own demons. Elsewhere, a different kind of tension was building. In the cluttered, dimly lit conference room at the Abbott residence, Nick and Phyllis sat alongside Sharon. The trio had just received disturbing intelligence that threatened to upend their carefully laid plans. "I think we should cancel the trip right now," Nick declared, his voice low but edged with urgency. Phyllis nodded, and Sharon's eyes, usually so bright with hope, now bore a haunted look. Before anyone could voice further concerns, Nick posed a question that had been gnawing at him. "Do you really believe it's possible, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Alan Laurent is behind all of this?" His question hung in the air, heavy with the implications of betrayal and hidden agendas. Sharon shook her head slowly, her expression troubled. "I barely know the man, but I can't say I know Phyllis at all," she murmured, a cryptic admission that deepened the mystery even further. Determined to find clarity, Nick began a discreet investigation into Alan's past. What he uncovered was shocking. In a series of confidential files and aged newspaper clippings, Nick learned that Alan had a twin brother, Martin, a man whose reputation was steeped in darkness. Martin had a history of wandering in and out of psychiatric clinics, his name linked to numerous diagnoses and unsettling experiments. Worse yet, in a violent altercation in Paris, Martin had suffered a fatal fall during a brawl with Alan. The evidence painted a grim portrait. While Alan was widely known, the shadow of Martin's existence suggested that not everything was as it seemed. Before the weight of this discovery could settle in, Chance burst into the conversation with news of his own. "I've got something," he announced, his voice carrying the tremor of urgency. "I know that the kidnapper rented a farmhouse just outside of town." His revelation caused a stir among the group, and Nick immediately pressed for details. "Is there anything else we should know about the case or even about Alan?" he asked. His tone was both investigative and protective, determined that no stone be left unturned. Chance took a steadying breath before continuing. "If we're not at the base, then you need to tell us what we're up against, because everyone deserves to know what they're facing." He leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Tracy is worried that it might actually be Martin, not Alan, who survived that fall." The implication sent ripples of shock through the room. The idea that the monstrous Martin could be alive, and pulling strings from the shadows, was almost too horrifying to consider. Later that night, in the solitude of her own room, Tracy sat in a dim corner with a glass of her favorite drink in hand. The room was cloaked in an atmosphere of melancholy and anticipation. Just then, her phone rang, a call from Jack. She answered, her tone a mix of weary resignation and subtle hope. "I haven't heard anything about Alan flying back into town tomorrow," she confided. Jack's voice on the other end was filled with concern, mingled with the frustration of the unknown. In the quiet hum of the late evening, Tracy slowly poured herself another drink, seeking solace in the gentle clink of ice against glass. The door to the room opened, and Alan stepped in, his presence both comforting and disconcerting. His tired eyes met hers as he approached. Without a word, Tracy wrapped her arms around him, her embrace conveying both relief and a deep-seated longing. "I'm so happy you're back," she whispered, as if to erase the long hours of solitude and worry. But as Alan settled into the warmth of her arms, a subtle shift occurred. Alan's keen eyes searched Tracy's face, noting the hesitancy in her smile, the uncertainty in her gaze. "Is it because I didn't call first?" he remarked lightly, a questioning lilt in his voice that hinted at a deeper concern. Then, with a slow, almost sorrowful tone, he added, "Wait, has your mind changed about us?" Tracy's response was layered with emotion. "I miss you more than words can say," she confessed softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're amazing, and I love being with you. But, engagement. I feel like we need time. We should really take some time to plan and sort things out." Her voice trembled as she asked, "Why are we in such a rush?" Alan's brow furrowed as he processed her words. The weight of their conversation pressed down on him, mingling love with the bitter taste of disillusionment. He knew that Tracy's hesitance was not a rejection of him, it was a plea for careful consideration, a request to build a future on a foundation that wasn't rushed by the tumult of recent events. Back in another part of town, as the puzzle pieces continued to fall into place, Nick's mind raced with the implications of every new revelation. The discovery of Martin's existence, a twin with a troubled past, and the possibility that he was the true mastermind behind the recent kidnappings and deceptions, meant that the line between friend and foe was more blurred than ever. Every whispered conversation, every confidential document, and every piece of evidence pointed toward a dark network of secrets and lies. The tension between hope and despair was palpable. The revelations forced each character to confront painful truths about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one must go to protect those they love. For Summer and Chance, it was a test of their ability to heal and to face the future without running from the past. For Nick, Phyllis, and Sharon, it was about uncovering the true identity of the puppet master behind a string of sinister events, a mystery that had led to the possible resurgence of Martin's influence. And for Tracy and Jack, who had weathered storms of their own, the stakes were now personal. In Tracy's eyes, the possibility that Martin, the living embodiment of darkness, might be masquerading as Alan was a threat that cut to the very core of their existence. Jack, ever the protector, vowed silently that he would do everything in his power to shield Tracy and to bring the truth to light, no matter how harrowing the journey might be. As the night deepened and the myriad voices of Genoa City carried secrets in every whispered conversation, one thing was clear: the path ahead was fraught with danger and revelation. The characters found themselves entangled in a web where every decision could lead to salvation or ruin. With each passing moment, the promise of unveiling Martin's monstrous secrets grew stronger, a promise that, once fulfilled, would shake the very foundations of their world. In this labyrinth of emotions and espionage, alliances were tested and hearts were put on trial. Every whispered conversation, every tear, and every defiant stand was a step toward the eventual showdown, a showdown where truth, no matter how painful, would have the final say. What secrets would finally come to light? Could the Abbott family, and their trusted allies, rescue those who suffered at the hands of Martin's cruelty? And would love, in its many forms, be enough to mend the fractures that betrayal had wrought? The answers lay hidden in the unfolding mystery, waiting to be revealed in a dramatic crescendo that promised to redefine every life it touched. In the quiet aftermath of a stormy evening, the tension between Alan and Tracy reached its boiling point in the sanctuary of their shared apartment. The air was heavy with unsaid words and unhealed wounds, as the couple sat facing each other in the soft glow of a single table lamp. Alan's eyes, usually warm and inviting, now flashed with anger and hurt as he broke the silence. "What happened that makes you so afraid of our future together?" he demanded, his tone rising with each word. The accusation cut through the fragile calm that had, until that moment, barely held them together. Tracy sat rigidly, her face a mask of conflicted emotions. Although her eyes shone with unshed tears, she refused to meet his gaze directly. It wasn't that she feared him, in truth, no one could make her tremble in his presence. But rather, she needed certainty from both sides. Deep inside, she longed for a future where their bond was unshakable, where doubts could be laid to rest by the strength of their commitment. After a long, charged silence, Tracy finally managed to whisper, "Waiting can only make us stronger as a couple." Her voice was low, barely audible, yet it carried the weight of her belief that time, if given a chance, could heal old wounds and build something lasting. But the unspoken question lingered in the space between them: could they both be completely sure of the path they were taking? With a bitter smile and a shake of his head, Alan replied, his voice laced with a mixture of exasperation and regret, "You know you're hiding something." He paused, his eyes searching hers as if trying to see the truth behind her silence. "I understand you better than you think," he continued, though the tone in his voice was far from warm. There was a hardness in his gaze, a chill that betrayed the lack of genuine affection in his words. "Do you doubt my honesty?" he challenged, as if daring her to answer the question he already knew the answer to. The conversation hung in the air like a fragile truce, each word a reminder of the deep fissures between them. Tracy's heart pounded in her chest as she fought back tears, silently pleading for the time she needed, a time to sort through the tangled emotions and decide whether the future they dreamed of was worth the struggle. Across town, in the dimly lit ambience of the jazz club, a favorite haunt where smooth saxophone melodies intertwined with whispered secrets, a very different conversation was unfolding. Ashley, ever the beacon of optimism despite the darkness that often surrounded their lives, was in the middle of recounting her heartfelt joy. With a radiant smile that belied the turmoil of recent events, she told a small group of close confidants, "I'm so happy that Tracy got engaged to such a good man. It feels like she finally has a reason to smile again." Her words, full of genuine happiness for her sister, echoed over the low hum of conversation and clinking glasses. Yet, not everyone shared her optimism that night. Jack, standing a few paces away near the bar, interjected with a furrowed brow and a voice laden with concern. "But what about our safety, Tracy's safety, and everyone else's? Don't you think there's more to this than just a celebration?" The remark drew a momentary hush over the group. Jack's mind was haunted by the grim realities of the past months, a tangled web of betrayals, kidnapping schemes, and dangerous liaisons that had shaken their family to its core. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper as he continued, "Do you think that Martin is the one who survived the fall in Paris?" The question was more than just a query, it was a plea for reassurance in a time when the shadows of the past threatened to engulf them all. At that very moment, the silky notes of the saxophone soared through the room, mingling with the bittersweet tension in the air. Ashley's laughter faded into a pensive silence as Jack's words resonated with everyone who had witnessed the scars left by Martin's dark legacy. It was a reminder that while love and celebration could bring temporary respite, the ghosts of their past were never far behind. Back at the apartment, as Alan and Tracy sat in their fragile dialogue, the unresolved tension mirrored the uncertainty that gripped the entire family. Alan's probing question had exposed the underlying mistrust, a sentiment that had been festering in the corners of their relationship for far too long. Tracy's eyes, moist with tears and determination, held a silent promise. She needed time to sort out her feelings, to ensure that every step forward was taken with certainty. Yet, her inner turmoil was compounded by the fear that, despite all the promises and hopeful words, the past might repeat itself if they did not confront the truth head-on. Later that night, as the club's lights dimmed and patrons began to drift away into the cool embrace of the city streets, Jack found himself reflecting on the evening's revelations. His mind replayed the conversation at the club, the urgent question about Martin's survival echoing in his thoughts. The specter of Martin, once thought to have perished in a violent brawl in Paris, loomed over them like a dark cloud. Jack knew that if Martin were indeed still alive, his presence would threaten everything they had fought so hard to rebuild. The possibility was both terrifying and all too real. In the quiet solitude of his room, Jack took a deep breath and resolved to dig deeper. The truth, he believed, lay hidden in the shadows of their past, waiting to be unearthed. Whether it was Martin's survival or Alan's true intentions, every secret would eventually come to light. And once it did, the family would have to stand together to confront the darkness that had long been a part of their lives. As the night wore on, Tracy sat by the window, a half-empty glass of her favorite drink in hand. The gentle patter of rain against the pane was a constant reminder that time, patient, relentless time, had the power to heal or to destroy. In that moment, she resolved to give herself the time she needed, to allow waiting to become a source of strength rather than a harbinger of doubt. She knew that the path ahead was fraught with peril and uncertainty, but she also knew that her heart was capable of enduring the storm. Across town, in the jazz club's lingering silence, Ashley's earlier joy had given way to a thoughtful melancholy. Her words, spoken with such radiant hope, now carried the weight of a responsibility she shared with Jack and the rest of their family. They all faced a future shadowed by the specter of Martin, a future where every relationship, every alliance, and every promise was under threat from the relentless pull of the past. As the first light of dawn crept over Genoa City, the questions remained unanswered. Could time and honest communication mend the fractures between Alan and Tracy? Would Martin truly be the phantom from Paris, lurking in the shadows ready to pounce on their newfound happiness? And most importantly, could they all find a way to move forward, united by love and strengthened by the trials they had endured? For now, each of them resolved to take one cautious step at a time. Tracy would wait, gathering strength from the quiet moments of reflection. Alan would continue to insist on his honesty, even as his words revealed the absence of the warmth they once shared. Ashley and Jack would keep a vigilant watch over their family, ready to face the dark truths that Martin's legacy threatened to unleash. In the delicate interplay between hope and fear, between love and distrust, the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation with the past, a confrontation that promised to redefine their future, one uncertain, fragile, yet undeniably real moment at a time. February 2nd.